Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about how astrology may ruin and hurt relationships, including friendships. And first of all, astrology, can, very basically, as some people will look at it and say, well, when you have bad synastry, that is not, good for relationships. People still, of course, can have, sustained and protracted relationships, even with bad synastry and compatibility in the charts. But one thing that, basic example, or, one basic reason, or could be obvious reason, that could, where a relationship can be impacted adversely through astrology is just a simple belief regarding it. When you have people naturally that are, someone's diametrically opposed to astrology, and you have that one, that person that believes in it and in the relationship, and a lot of times that can cause a rift. Like, for example, my grandfather was, had a heart of gold. He was very, altruistic, did a lot of, very humanitarian, did a lot of nice things for people, don't get me wrong. But me and him were diametrically opposed on the subject of astrology. And it caused, I believe, a little rift in our, relationship. And, he seemed to think, as, in the Bible, it talks about, rebuking, astrology, and it says that it's, you're not supposed to foster a belief in it. I mean, for me, I still believe, that, the constellations, planets are all put there for a reason. I think the three wise men were astrologers. I believe also, too, if I'm not mistaken, that, astrology paintings were used like in murals and like Catholic Church. And if you look through history, but you may want to confer that online. But the point being, that it can ruin it, when you have the difference in opinion regarding astrology, is you're going to have, like, say on Facebook, you can make, say you make a new friend on there, but if that person is completely, opposed to the belief in astrology, it's possible he or she may delete and or block you. And, so you have, situations like that. Now, I'm going to get into a couple, specific situations that happen with me, and you can understand, some other reasons why astrology can, ruin, or it could, completely, eradicate a relationship. Now, or, which can include, important friends. Well, okay, there was a time, this was like, about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, and I was helping, a friend out I knew online, through transit reports, and, for the most part, she'd been agreeable to, what I had done, and she was pleased and satisfied with the reports. But what happened was, one day, we had an issue because she said something like, well, astrology, I noticed, can be contradictory, and she had stated something about, well, how could I have, this fun and fortune or whatever and positivity if I could be going through some trauma? Well, when you have, like, transits in a chart, you're going to have good and bad ones. In most cases, you're going to have, combination of good and adverse transits. But you could have, what astrologers would call like contraindicators. And in this, case, you can, you could be going through, certain trauma, or there might be some pain, a little anguish one may be going through, but it doesn't mean you can't have some positivity in some other aspect or element of your life in the process, because in life we deal and contend with good and bad things anyway, and we know that not everything is always rosy, and there's going to be some headaches along the way, figuratively speaking, one may have to deal with. And and the thing was, our friendship basically came to an end. I guess guess we were at like an impasse on this whole thing, and just because of, what she didn't agree with in terms of a transit report. So what could have, so I guess what I want to get at, people, is if you're like, a friend of somebody and you're helping them out, through transit reports, you got to just be wary that, something is perceived as erroneous, by the client, but which is your friend as well, that, that could cause, some conflict at some point, and you got to make sure that what you're doing, professionally has some separation from like the friendship or whatever it might be, and also kind of let the people know out there that there may be some things that may be conflicting and some contraindicators, but it doesn't mean the report as a whole is erroneous. So, and here's another thing that had transpired in actually fairly recent time. Okay, I had a fan of mine, that my astrology videos. Right, she seemed like she was very enamored with what I was doing, and I believe her to be a long time, fan of my astrology videos on YouTube, and I think, if I remember correctly, that I was one of the first ones she had actually viewed, and it felt really good. And I had connected with her and on Facebook, and what happened was one day I just tried to make an audio call to her shortly after we connected, and I think she may have been taken aback by that she thought, I was, going, further in the connection or something quicker than I should have. And I was just trying to reach out to show concern and also show appreciation of what she had done for me, and that, being such a loyal and steadfast fan for so many years. And I wanted to let her know, in my own way, by doing that it was appreciated. But I think sometimes things can get, misconstrued. That's why, part of me, part of me that doesn't like, this online internet experience is because you don't, have, the close connection. You don't have like, the in-person speaking and understanding, why, somebody may do something, or what, even like sometimes what somebody may say, and understand, what it means 100%, because even in, conversations and communications on the internet, things could often be ambiguous and be misconstrued. So it's important to keep, that in mind, and, you want to do, right, and, for your fans and everything. But it was a learning experience for me, because that shortly after that, she was taken aback by it, and we just, we had lost our, our friendship on here, and all it took, it's ironic because she had, been a fan of my videos for so long. And once we make the, the friendship, the official friendship connection, when she adds me as a friend on Facebook, shortly after that is when it comes to an end. So, that's, it's just a shame that things have to be like that, on the internet, and people don't always, understand others' intentions. Somebody could just be reaching out, trying to be compassionate and show some kind of concern, but it might be, misconstrued, and they might see me as, maybe I was being too pushy, or I was, trying to push the connection, further too quickly, which really wasn't the case. I was just trying to show, certain appreciation, and let the person know, because I thought maybe she would have been happy that I reached out to her in that manner on a more personal level, as opposed to, like, say, maybe a little more superficial one, which would be through the regular messaging on Facebook. So that's where the problem came. So that through that example, you can understand how things can wind up going awry pretty quickly, through an astrological connection. So the thing is, if you're going to, like, say, like in my example that I just stated, that if you have somebody that's been enamored with your videos, been a follower of it for some time, and you like the person connects with you more on Facebook, whatever, adds you as a friend, I guess it's about proceeding with caution, because everybody responds to things in a different way. If somebody had, say, if I was a big fan of, some astrologer that I've been following for some time, and he or she decided to call me, I wouldn't, I mean, this is just my own perception on it. To me, I wouldn't be taken aback by it. I would be honored. I would really, I would have been very happy about the thing. I wouldn't have seen it or perceived it as intrusive, but unfortunately, it's like the different strokes for different folks. Everybody's going to have their own outlook and vantage point on that matter, and I have to respect and understand that. It was just something that, I didn't really agree with the reaction on this person's part, but, it is what it is. But, the thing is, you just have to be, careful when, people, like if you're, say if you're out there and you're, like me, you're doing YouTube astrology videos, and, somebody, connects with you, if somebody that was an avid fan for many years, and, and maybe you want to reach out to them on a more personal level, it's just, err on the side of caution, because after what happened last time, I think, like for me, in the future, I'm just going to, have to stick with the written messages, because I have to respect and understand that everybody's going to have a different reaction to those things. So that's what I wanted to get at. And again, a lot of, the major risks people can have in the connections through astrology is just the simple, one having a belief in it and others may not. Like, say, if you have, Jupiter, adverse Jupiter in synastry, that could show, through that basic example, different philosophical, beliefs and, things of that nature. I would say even like, say, Mercury adverse Jupiter can be where, the philosophies of someone, the person may not really, the Mercury person may not quite understand and want to agree with Mercury. Adverse Mercury could be another example, Mercury square or opposition Mercury in synastry. So you have, these, things of that nature in synastry where you could show like the differences in beliefs and philosophical outlooks. So, again, the thing is that, and don't get me wrong, astrology, is very advantageous and beneficial for many, and there's a lot of good that can come out of it. I believe that bodies have even been found through the use of astrology, and you have like missing persons, missing bodies. So it's like it's been very positive in many ways for people, but this is just something that people have to understand and have insight on in terms of relationships where it can be adverse at times. So be careful and err on the side of caution in the matters I just described in the video. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.